It's the bluest room in town. Yeah, they're actually funny, and the guests are sound. Through the ups and the downs, yeah, they'll be there waiting for the next time round. Find out what it means. Everton will break your heart, but they're still your team. It's far from doom and gloom, so tune in now and get involved with the Blue Room.
There's some nights that are really strange as a football fan. It's me and Warren with your post-match as Everton beat Newcastle 3-0. That's 3-0 at Goodison Park, where we've had one victory all season long up until tonight, and that was against Bournemouth at home. Do you know, Warren, I want to start this really positively, but it's hard not to say that I absolutely was not expecting, firstly, that performance, and secondly, us being that clinical when we're trying to score goals.
Oh, Dave, I'm over the moon here, mate. Not just because of the performance, not just because of the results, not just because against it's Newcastle who've sort of tried to build up this bit of rivalry with us, particularly online. But I'm just absolutely delighted that it's points on the board at home. Following up from that fantastic win against Forest.
Yeah,
it was important that we got some sort of point in the home games coming up. And I said to you on the weekly when I was with you last week, I think it was, it's great having this away run of form at the minute, picking up points on the road. But sooner or later, we've got to start getting something at home because whilst the away form is great and we love it, we know how tough it is to win away from home in the Premier League, and we haven't been great away from home the last 3-4 years. So I was looking forward to at least getting a point tonight. And I'll tell you what, Dave, particularly when I saw that team come out before kickoff, I was looking at that without James Garner, thinking, "Where's the creativity? How are we gonna score here?" And blimey, I tell you what, I know it took a couple of Kieran Trippier mistakes, but didn't we pounce on it? And do you know what? Actually, as well, bar some again unfortunate finishing, we could have been 1 or 2-0 up in the first half as well. But just magnificent, just absolutely brilliant to see. Blood and guts and thunder. But you know what? Actually, some brilliant football as well from Everton. Particularly in the latter end of that second half. I thought we were brilliant tonight.
Yeah, what you said there, spot on. The first thing I wanted to talk about here was, again, I'm always banging on about it like a broken record. I seem to say every single game, always obsess over the possession. Today's was 37%, which is bang on our average of around 40 every single game we play. To see us perform like that, where I was talking to two fans I was talking to, after the home game against Brighton, where we drew 1-1, right? And Brighton scored a jammy goal, didn't he? I was talking to these fellas, and they were like, "I don't know if I can be bothered coming here again." And I was like, "Why? What's the problem?" He said, "I'm not watching Everton play football like that." And I was astonished, to be honest with you, because I was like, "Well, we're in trouble. Obviously, need all of us screaming when we're at home, but also, why are you bothered over so much about how we play over the actual results of the game?" Because getting a 1-1 draw at home to Brighton's actually a decent result for most clubs. Certainly ours anyway. And I just couldn't understand that. And I was thinking, do you know what? If there are many Evertonians who are in that sort of trail of thoughts in the mind, I'm thinking, what is going on there? And maybe that puts it towards why weren't doing any good at home. But you looked at tonight there, that was a classic game at Goodison. That backs against the wall for most of it, because let's be honest, aside from all the weird thing that happens with the trying to make a rivalry and stuff like that, and with Gordon and everything, aside from all that, I thought when we had the ball, we used it with some intelligence rather than just trying to get rid of it defensively. And I think that's what Dice is thrown into this side now. All of a sudden, if you look at those last two games, it's not, let's put 10 men behind the ball and just leave Betto or Calvert-Lewin up front for it to be hoofed to when we win the ball back. It's there's play available when we win the ball back deep in our own half, which is it's a rarity to see. I think, in general games these days, whichever you watch, but there's an element of fear when you're watching a game when you see that, because you think if a team's banging against you, playing up to the final third for most of the game, then it's almost inevitable that they're going to score. But watching that tonight, I think that nailed every plan that Sean Dyche had in that game.
It was a perfect Dyche tactical performance, really, wasn't it?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think, do you know what, this possession thing, and I agree with you. I'm starting to obsess over it as well, because I look sometimes, and when it says, there was a point in, I think, in the second half where it said we had 32% possession,
Yeah.
and I'm looking at it going, am I watching the game here where Newcastle have had 60
Spot
odd
on. Yeah.
percent or more of the
Yeah.
ball? It doesn't feel like a 60-30 game. And I think the reason being, Dave, is because one of the things I thought we did really well tonight was our pressing.
Yeah.
And I think that I do think there's a lot made. I think it's a lot made about pressing, because look,
Mm-hmm.
this seems to be like a modern day football where it's the word press and going up against the press. And you work hard to win the ball back. If you haven't got it, you run your backside off to get it back. And it's always been that way. It's been that way since, before we were born in football. It's
Yeah,
just all of a
absolutely.
sudden, it's just become this thing nowadays that you've got to press, you've got to press. It's always been there. But going back to what I thought we did really well, when we didn't have the ball, I thought we made it so difficult for them. We didn't give them any chance to play little triangles or little 1-2s or little threatening balls, in behind the defence, anything like that. And when they had the ball, they didn't do a lot with it. Now, it's all well and good having the ball, but if you're not going to do something with it, have it all you want. I think where we succeeded and where we are playing really well, and I think what suits the players we've got and the game plan that Dice is going with, both home and away at the minute, is that we work our backsides off to get that ball. And when we get that ball, we get it in threatening areas quicker. For instance, I don't know if you'd heard this, tape, but in the first half, we had, forget about it being on target, I think there was something like 27 shots
Yeah. Yeah.
from Everton. And, that equates to only, I think it was only about 2 or 3 on targets, whatever it
Mm.
was. The fact that we're making 27 shots or
Yeah.
whatever it was, the commentator said there on Prime, he went, that works out about a shot every 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, for me, that doesn't sound like a team that's only got 30% of the ball. That
Yeah.
sounds like a team that when they win the ball, that they're getting it forward quick in threatening positions and they're trying to score. And I loved how we tried getting it wide all the time. I loved how when we got it, we harassed them. They tried playing it out from the back. They insisted on playing it out from the back. And that just allowed the likes of Harrison, Corey. Whilst, I know Corey got his goal, he didn't do anything really in possession. But when
Yeah.
we didn't have it, I thought his work off the ball was fantastic tonight. And that's what was the difference. And then when we eventually got that goal, you could see the confidence then, because it was as if a bit like the Man United game. If we don't finish these chances, we're gonna
Get
concede,
punished.
and then
Yeah.
that's game over. Get punished exactly. And I'm just so made up that we finally got that little bit of a hoodoo, if you like, of that. I know we've beaten Bournemouth and whatever, but Dice has insisted all season, hasn't he? He said, look, the stats showing us that we are going to win more games playing the way we are than what's gone on before.
Yeah.
We're going to stick
Yeah.
to the plan and it'll come together. And do you know what it did for me tonight, Dave, as well? I'm thinking if we don't concede that wonder goal against Man United, the Man United game was similar, the way we played and
Spot
the way
on.
we
Yeah.
created chances.
Just
And
a
I
sucker
just
blow,
think,
wasn't it? Just lit us in
yeah,
the bollocks at 2 minutes into a game.
and sometimes sometimes you've got to hold your hands up and go, what a great goal. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
And that 2-3 minutes in changes the whole complexion of the game. But going back to what you were saying, this thing about possession. Look, if we're 30% possession every game and we run and we tackle and we fight and we perform like that, how many times in the last few years have we given them players stick because we've just felt so disconnected from them? We felt like there's no unity at the club.
Yeah.
We've gone over this millions of times. I don't want to go on about this in the post-match following the game because we want to talk more about the game. But how just great was it tonight to see a full-blooded Goodison crowd under the
Yeah.
lights? But not only that, them players fighting for every ball. And listen, that's all we ever ask. And do you know, with these squad of players at the minute, what they're doing, if we get that more often than not, where they're out fighting other teams, regardless of the other team's quality, we'll get results going our way. And
Yeah.
I was a bit worried, I must admit, when Calvert-Lewin misses that chance in the first half. I think we had a couple of half chances as well. I was a bit worried, thinking, oh, here we go, it's going to be Man United all over again. But full credit to everyone in that ground, including the players, including the fans. I thought it was just a brilliant Goodison Park performance tonight. Really great to see.
Do you know what? It's interesting you say that, because I hate to get cliche about this. We want like dogs of war and all that sort of thing. it's hard not to refer to that, given this is very similar to what we used to do with that sort of thing. But yeah, when what you're spot on with there is, and again, it's cliche, isn't it? That when Goodison is all on its feet, then teams find it very, very difficult to come. I interviewed a lad, a Newcastle fan, like we do with the previews every week the other day, and he was saying he was really nice about the city and stuff like that. He really slightly older fella who knows like working class football and whatnot. And he was talking about Everton and Goodison, and he said a lot of your fans, probably your younger fans, don't realise how precious of a stadium you guys have got when you use it correctly. He said if you do that against us, he said I'll probably take a point coming away from Goodison. And he's absolutely spot on there, mate. Including what you've just said there, it fits it really perfectly. What you've said with
Dave. Sorry to cut you off, mate. I do apologise, but through yourself and whatever, I've been lucky enough to go on the radio and speak about Everton, speak about our show and stuff. And I was on 5 Live the other week speaking with a Man United fan, and he said the exact same thing. He said, he said this was before we played them. He said I'd take a point right now if you'd offered me it. He said because you've just been deducted 10 points. That crowd's going to be up for it. It's going to be horrible. I'd take a point right now. And, for me, and I said this then as well, a child of the 90s who grew up where Man United dominating everything, for a Man United fan to say that he's happy taking a point at Goodison with the way we are and the way we've been the last few years, I took that as a massive, massive compliment. And you say cliche, Dave, but why not use it as a strength and why not use it to our advantage? Because we saw tonight just what an advantage it can be. And, and when we talk about the Goodison crowd, I don't mean singing non-stop for 90 minutes. I mean just everyone up for it and everyone pulling together and fighting towards the same thing. And that was there tonight. So, I've heard a lot of, chatting recently about it. Oh, it's a blessing in disguise, this 10 points and all that.
Yeah.
Listen, we'd rather be in 10th place right now, which is where we should be.
You're ironically above Chelsea before we played them on Sunday if we still had the 10 points.
Exactly. We should be in 10th, but do you know what? There is a bit of logic to that because all that's done now is galvanised everyone and it's showing on the pitch. And I think there is a bit of that dogs of war. There is a bit of that siege mentality. And do you know what? Let's keep it up. Let's keep it going because I think if it produces games like that tonight, I'm all for it, Dave.
Do you know what? There's real mentality side of things that I was talking a lot to Les the other day about this. That there's if you were to if you were to go through the mentality of an Evertonian, just about your bog standard Evertonian goes to games. The stuff we've been through in recent years, not to mention the ones before that, when we actually had a decent side and looked like we were going to do something with it under Moyes years and stuff like that. You think psychologically how many people think about when they go to a game? For instance, what I mentioned there about those two fellas wanting to see a specific side of Everton. I'm thinking when I've seen that today that they actually make sense, if that sounds weird, because they want to see an old-fashioned Everton, just like you said, everybody sticking together and getting into this. And to refer to the game itself, because we've been banging on about the other stuff, haven't we, in and around psychology and how the fans react and all that. Game itself, though, I thought that I feared Newcastle, I have to be honest, first half, basically, I feared against Newcastle because they've got some top-class players. When I see this Isaac as well, after what he did to us last season when he ripped us apart, I was thinking he's going to be one of them. Like you said, that miss from Dom, and then you had Gordon there, and I thought, it's already written in the paper for tomorrow, isn't it, that he scores the winner or he scores or wins a pen or something like that. And that's sort of an Everton mentality, isn't it, when you see players who do that? Like when Rooney came back, when he first signed for United, all of that sort of thing. It's almost like we've lost before we've started. When people have that thought, and I'm talking about the crowd here. But in terms of players, when he set this up, I was obviously delighted to see Coleman back in. Because if there was anyone I wanted against Anthony Gordon, it was him on that side. Because he's everything for us in terms of being the captain and just getting it, everybody get behind him type of thing. Only thing I was concerned about, he hasn't played a game all season. And then I looked, it was really interesting, and he put Ashley Young in front of him. And I thought, what's going to happen here? You've got Seamus, who hasn't played a game for months and months and months. and you've got Ashley Young, who's been getting pelters ever since he signed a piece of paper to play for us. And the pair of them were actually really, really good together for the entirety of that game. You saw Ashley Young looking like he had a bit of pace, getting up there, whipping crosses in that were actually crosses, not when he used to take free kicks and put them out of play. And what I want to ask you is, would you piece that together with the way in which the crowd were? Because you've got a load of people in the stadium backing players rather than worried so much about it. In other ways, I'm asking you, do you feel like the shackles were off a little bit with the way in which many of those players came about?
Well, I referenced earlier about when I saw our team, I thought, where's the creativity coming from, or where's the final pass, or how are we going to even set up here? Because you've got Young and Coleman both on the pitch. In hindsight, now looking back at it was actually tactically really spot on from Sean Dyche, because, like you said there, he sat Ashley Young just in front of Coleman. And essentially what they've done is it's just given Coleman that bit of insurance on that side. I think a lot of Newcastle's strengths have come from that wide or that left-hand side area. And I think what we've looked to do is, can we compete in the middle against their midfield, and then can we shut them off along the flanks, and then, force them into playing the longer balls, or force them into tight areas where hopefully we can pick them off. And I thought that's what we did. I thought the right-hand side of our play tonight was really strong. And I agree with you. Listen, me and you, I think probably on the Blue Room have been the two biggest critics of Ashley Young. And I think there's other people who've not been happy with his selection. But I've got to admit, I thought he was very capable and very decent against Anthony Elanga on Saturday against Forest, because I thought that Elanga would give him some problems. And I thought tonight, the two of them working in tandem, where Coleman was just sitting that bit deeper, and when Ashley Young could, he got forward that little bit more, and he was joining in a little bit further ahead, probably in his natural position when he played when he was a young player.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, I think most people, since they've seen him with us playing as a right back, many people wouldn't even remember how good of a right winger he was.
He was a very decent player, and you know what? Before he was at United, he was great for Villa the first time round, and he was actually a very good young player when he was at Watford. And he's caused a lot of teams a lot of problems down the years. But listen, if we this is the way when we sign young guy envisaged us using him in games like tonight, where look, Coleman's your right back, and we're just going to slot you in. What I really liked as well was the second half when Coleman went off, and I thought he did great to get to an hour, by the way, considering he's not played since that Leicester game last season. Look, I'm a big fan of Patterson. I banged on about how big a fan I am of Patterson, and I really hope it works out for him in an Everton shirt, because I think he's going to be a really good right back, Premier League right back. But I liked the way that we didn't compromise the setup, because maybe if he did or didn't fancy Patterson, which is what some of us have said, I like the way he's gone, look, I'm going to go like for like. I'm going to keep it as it is. It seemed like Young and Patterson were doing that similar thing, working in tandem. And I think it just allowed the rest of the team, and particularly the midfield, to do what they needed to do.
Yeah.
And I think, you said earlier, Dave, about how it wasn't just a case of lumping it forward and looking for knock-ons. Decore gets that goal. He's in the box at 1-0, with a few minutes left. He scores that goal.
Betto's behind him, ready to do it himself as well, isn't it?
Exactly. It's
not often you see 3 or 4 players in a line just out the 6-yard box, is it?
And this is a bit of the anomaly with the fact that possession's 30-odd%, but we're actually attacking. We seem like we're not just sitting back. But yeah, just as I said, I think that tactically tonight it was very good from Everton. We didn't allow them much. We reduced them to a lot of half chances. We didn't, I know they had a few efforts on target when Tarkowski makes that mistake and Gordon's in and he has that shot, but I don't really remember anything like a point blank save that Pickford's had to make, or something that where they've had clear cut chances and the momentum's been with them for a good 10-15 minute spell, and you think to yourself, a goal's coming here any minute. I didn't feel that at all tonight. And you know what, I saw a couple of people saying it's 2-0, and this is going back to Lincoln, what you said as well about the psychology of an Evertonian. People were referring to that game when it was the 94th minute or whatever.
Shah scored 2 goals, didn't he? I remember that.
And it was 2-2. People were referring to that. And do you know what, Dave? I was so comfortable. The most comfortable I've been as a Blue. I think it's 2-0. And, we started doing the Olays. When was the last time we had Olays at 2-0 up?
I know, you talk about possession there. Maybe we would have got up to like 70% possession if we were doing that for 10 minutes.
But isn't that great to see a little bit of arrogance creeping into our game now, especially at 2-0? The confidence was there of the players to be able to do that. You know, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it, but you know, I'll give you a question now, Dave, on just what I was leading into here and see what you think of this. But we're doing the Olays at 2-0, and I'm quite comfortable here because I don't feel threatened when they've got a set piece or they've got a corner. I think we've got a stable and solid enough backline now to deal with that threat, which we, you know, haven't had down the years. But when we're doing the Olays at 2-0 and Betto goes through there and he scores, he's had a bit of stick.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say unfairly, because I think people are like going, not sure about him yet. I'm not
Mate,
giving him, you know,
I'll admit I've been at the top of the line with that, because
but
the amount
Dave,
of times
you've got him
I've seen him
being,
where he fell over his own feet and all that.
oh,
He
he looks
reminds me. Do you
awkward.
remember back in the day of Paolo One Shop? Do you remember that back in the
Yeah,
day?
yeah.
He reminds me so much of him, where you'd see him like barely control the ball, not really have a shot on goal, but then in the One Shop he get the ball, run around 6 people and score, and you're like, just
Scored a
an
wonder goal.
anomaly. Do you know what I mean? And I've got a feeling he's going to be that type.
But you know what, for me, Dave, like when I saw him, I first of all made up for him to score that in front of, you know, the Goodison crowd. Absolutely delighted for him, and hopefully that'll help him kick on. But bear in mind, and I don't, like I said, I don't think it's unfair, Stick. I think people are just still going, is he good enough? Is he this? Is he going to be, you know, is he ready to be, you know, a Premier League striker? I thought Dom had a quiet game tonight. I don't think he looked probably 100%. Still did what he needed to do. But when we've got that threat of Betto and the way he took that goal and the way, you know, he came on at 2-0, tired defences, do you think we've got an effective striker there? Because I think that whilst he might look a bit clumsy and he might look a bit leggy, I think we've got an effective player there, you know, who might just help us out in them forward areas when we need to cause a bit of trouble or cause a bit of chaos. I don't know what you thought about, you know, that in line, but also, you know, about his goal. Well, you know, it was great to see, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's a really good point, because I think he will have his detractors for quite some time, unless he's just banging goals in, you know, and scoring like, I don't know, 2 every few games or whatever it is. But what I do think he has when he comes on, before, obviously, look, most people are going to say, you check his goal scoring record, check his assist record, and that'll show you how good he is in the Premier League. I don't agree with that when you see not particular types of players, but just in general, really. You know, you look at, it's a terrible thing to say, but look at over at Nunez at Liverpool. They bought him for 70-odd million quid, and he's done very little. He hasn't scored many goals, but he tends to assist and get involved and be an absolute nuisance. I'd throw Betto into that category one. I think that you get him on, and he's there to cause a real hassle and be a nuisance to a load of lads who've been on the pitch running ragged for an hour, 70 minutes, and he comes on and does that. If you saw him coming on, what is he, like 6'7", comes on, and you're like Shah, and they're back 4, you'd be looking at that thinking, this is a nightmare, this, because we've got to step back up again here, because Dom, like you said, I don't think he looked 100% fit. And I think he has a real difficulty at times when it's getting hoofed up to him, and he's just fighting 50-50 headers. And sometimes he lives in a game of scrapping, where he, you know, desperately needs to win something, lay it off, and then get in the box. I think that's a real difficulty for him at times. Probably something that we need to look at, I think, going down the season, because when crosses come in, they frustrated me. So, for example, just to go off a bit of a tangent here, in the first half, when Ashley Young was getting forward, putting crosses in, McNeil and Mikalenko putting crosses in, I just didn't feel that we'd ever win a header. It's because they've got big lads at the back. They've got a solid back 4. And I was looking at that thinking, you've got to think of something else. We've got to have something else here. Then when Betto comes on, then it does look like you've got a lad there who, if you knock it up to, it'll stick. And when that happens, and like it did in that game, he then brings people around him into the game. Now, look, there'll be times when the ball gets thrown into him and it'll come off his shin and go out for the throw-in. You know, they're the frustrating things that'll happen. But I think you're spot on there in terms of what you want to get from him at this moment in time. He's a young lad. He's come into a new division. We need to keep that at the front of our minds. And I'll admit, I certainly haven't done that. I've just way too far at the start and said, doesn't look like why would you spend 30 million quid on this fellow who can't control it? And I think he's the type who'll win a lot of free kicks as well, because you'll have so many defenders who are jumping all over him, pushing him, trying to get him out the way. And do you know what as well, which I thought was really nice, and you'll have seen this because we were both watching it, his celebration when McNeil scored, I think it was. It might have been that or the second goal. He went absolutely ballistic outside the Gladys. Like, it looked like he was going to run and jump in. He just, if anyone gets to watch it again, please watch it, because I found it hilarious. He's one of those lads that's come in who's just so desperate to do well and be part of what we are. And I think that's coming along. You know, if he keeps getting on for the last half an hour, look, he's going to start a bit as well when Dom isn't fully fit, because he's certainly not going to play 30-odd games a season or 20-odd games a season now, is he? So I think you're right. And do you know what, in hindsight, from what you've asked there, I feel I've jumped the gun far too quickly in seeing and admitting what I actually feel about him. And the goal he scored was him all over, wasn't it? Because he's got the attributes of a striker that you don't really see, and that is both quick and fast. He's, like I said, he's a big boy. He's a big lad, and also, mate, he can absolutely whip it. He's got pace.
He's picked that ball up on the halfway line. And I know Newcastle are playing a high line at that time, so they're maybe trying to get back into the game. We'll see if they can get one back to make it interesting at 2-0. But the way he's got that ball and his pace and power to drive through, I thought that was a brilliant piece of play from him. And then he gets a little bit lucky, should we say, with the finish, because the keeper, it's gone through the keeper's legs. But to get in that position in the first place and to get a shot on, off, when you get a shot at goal, anything can happen. We saw that last night with Villa's goal against City when Leon Bailey scores and to get a deflection. Anything can happen when you get a shot away. So I thought he did magnificent for that goal. But I agree with you. And listen, we're allowed to, we can only judge on what we've seen, and we're allowed to give opinions, and we're allowed to think that. And we've all got players wrong massively in the past, and I think it's just like you said. I think sometimes because we love it, we want them to succeed so much. We just want a successful team. I think, we do, all of us are guilty of jumping the gun. So it's, it's understandable. And I think that, like you said, I think we've just got to bear in mind, look, he's come from another country, he's still a relatively young lad. He's going to take time to settle in. But I think we've given him the perfect environment to do that at the minute by coming on in games like tonight, where, do you know what, we've worked that back four quite hard, and we've given them, a lot of physical matchups there for him, someone like him to come on and match them and then add a bit more fresh legs. It's going to be difficult for any back four. So I thought we used them and have used them brilliant so far.
It's, looking at that 11 now while you're talking there, when's the last time you've ever thought I'd look at that 11 and say I couldn't say anything negative about every single one of them?
Do you know what?
Betto when he came on, Patterson when he came on, every single one of them there. It's hard to pick a man of the match. Most people would say McNeil because of the goal, but he got man of the match. Sorry, mate,
he got man of the match on the TV, didn't he?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
For me, Dave, I just think Michalenko's just turning into a very, very, very good left back. I thought
you've read me mind there, mate. You've absolutely read me mind with that lad. I think he's been superb. I don't think he's received the praise that he should have, and he looks like he's got, I'm not going to say a bit of a swagger about him, but he looks like he's got a real confidence when he's on the ball, when he receives the ball, when he has to go back and tackle. I'm not necessarily sure if it's Dice that sort of flipped him round, because obviously in his personal life he's had all sorts going on with his country and whatnot. But you're looking at a top class left back right now, and I don't think we are jumping the gun to say that.
Well, you made a great point on I can't remember if it was the post match or a weekly. You said about, I didn't realise he was quick as he was. Dave, I think he looks in a good way. He looks like he's pulling about half a stone of muscle, and he looks more powerful for it. Now, that might be totally wrong, but I'm looking at him. There was, do you know what? Not a lot of people made this point about, or I didn't hear a lot of it anyway. I'm pretty sure it was against Forest. It was a through ball, and they were about to score, and he just gets the slightest nick on it and turns out for the corner.
Yeah.
And that never really got made the point of how well he read that and how brilliant defending it was. But he wasn't tonight. He wasn't like your 8, 9 out of 10, or even 10 out of 10. But I just thought everything he did was what you'd want from a left back. He got forward when he needed to. He joined in the play, defended brilliantly. Again, listen, if you keep a clean sheet, I consider that good defending from anyone.
Yeah.
But I think you're absolutely right. I think everyone do you know what, the quietest player on the pitch for me tonight was probably, I'd say, one of the two midfielders. But then we've just been praising how well he's been worked as a unit. And, for all for all of Joshua Garnegay frustrates me the way he gives it away and doesn't keep possession for us. I thought he was brilliant for the way he would nick the ball and stop them playing. And I think just breaking up play when you're at a side like Newcastle is really beneficial. But yet I agree with you, Dave. I don't think anyone had a bad game tonight. I thought everyone did the jobs brilliantly. And I think you've made this point hundreds of times. I know Matt has, I know Les and a few other people have. It's getting to the point now where Jared Brandtwaite is, he hasn't done anything special because we expect so much of him now because we rate him that highly. But he's again had another really solid game alongside Tarkowski.
I think that game was that sort of definition really where you get and you should never do it, should you really, as a fan, because it then becomes a kiss of death to expect what you're going to get from a player. But it's certainly as close as you're going to get to that when you're watching a kid who's essentially dominating. I'd even go as far as saying in several games he's looked like the most senior out of him and Tarkowski, to be honest with you. When you got a minute or so left, mate, I want a quick word from you on Chelsea. They're all over the place here, aren't they? In fact, if we had the 10 points, we'd be above them now, like you said. You fancying this now? We've just done that to Newcastle tonight.
Do you know what stat I couldn't believe watching them last night against Man United? They've only won, I think it was something ridiculous, like 1 in the last 15 away games. Now, I might be wrong with that, but I know I'm not far off. I know it's...
You can't be far off because they've been woeful anyway, haven't they? I think we've won the same amount of games as them, I think, as well, in the division.
We've won more. We've won more than them.
Have we?
We've won more games. Well, after tonight, I'm pretty sure we've won more than them this season. Listen, we said this about the Man United game after we'd beaten Palace, is that everyone's going to want to be in that ground Sunday now. Everyone's going to want to be there and everyone's going to be expecting a bit of a, fight again. And I wouldn't say a performance as good as that, but everyone knows that Chelsea are going to be in for a tough game. And I think you look at our form. They mentioned tonight as well. I think they said we've won 9 of the last 16 or something like that. Something really. Again, I could be well off with these stats. I just hear these things.
No, it's if it's not right, it's similar, like you say.
So Chelsea have won 1 away in the last 19. I've just looked that up now.
We've won 4 away this season, haven't we?
Yeah, and now our home form starts to listen. I know in the past we'd have these time for Everton memes and all this. I'm fully confident, mate. And you know what? Even if we do get beat or even if we don't get a win, I think we're going to do all right in terms of performance. I think we're going to get stuck in. We're going to play when we need to. We're going to harass. We're going to stop them playing. And like you said, I don't think they know their best team. I think on their day they can be very strong, and I think on their day they can turn a performance in. But I also think now, looking at us, if we've got Onana hopefully back fit, Jimmy Garner hopefully, to come back in as well and add a little bit of quality in that midfield in terms of on the ball. I think the way that, Coleman hopefully after that 60 minutes under his belt, I thought he did great tonight. We've referenced that earlier. I'm very much looking forward to Sunday. And I just, I don't want to say I'd take a point now because I think we're capable of winning, but in the grand scheme of things, if you look at it and you go Forest, Newcastle, Chelsea, you've taken 7 points out of them 3 games. Dave, you wouldn't have asked for more of that. You would have bitten anyone's hand off for that.
Exactly, mate. Whatever we need, mate, you'd say absolutely take it at any point, wouldn't you? They would. If any team would have had those fixtures.
And just before I leave you to sign off on that, Dave, massive psychological boost getting out that relegation zone tonight. Yeah. Imagine you're one and you're sitting in the relegation zone and you're going, I don't believe this. Everton have been docked 10 points and we're in the relegation zone and they're above us. That mentality, I know we've said that word a lot, and I think that's just spreading that word amongst us. That mentality, that psychological idea now that, hang on a minute, Everton should be 10th and they're above us. It's only taken them 3 games to get above us already and out the relegation zone. Massive for the fans, massive for us tonight. And I think that we can very much be looking up rather than down. And I think that the likes of Forest above us, I know Bournemouth are on a good run, but I think the likes of them above us as well at the minute. Forest have mentioned, Palace. I think we're more than capable in the next few weeks if we keep doing what we're doing of achieving and trying to get above them even. So lots to look forward to. I'm ready for Sunday, mate. And look, even if it doesn't go our way Sunday, I believe this side, what they've shown me in the last couple of weeks, have got it in them to get us out of this mess through no fault of their own, through no fault of our own, and see us heading up that table rather than looking down.
Couldn't have put it any better. I don't think anybody could have put that any better. But who'd have thought it would be sitting after 10 points knocked off, but 3 weeks ago, and now we're outside of the bottom, the relegation zone. I was saying, tongue in cheek, that if this appeal went down our way, we get another deduction. We could still go and survive it anyway. But didn't think we'd be feeling like this, mate, so quickly after receiving such a lowdown from all of that. But as always, mate, thanks for joining us as always, and you'll be back on as always, as everyone knows who's listening. We'll be back tomorrow with one of the weekly shows, and then previewing.
Mailbag's back. I'm on Mailbag for the first
Mailbag
time
as well, mate. Yeah,
months.
you haven't been on Mailbag for ages. I can't wait to listen to that as well.
Oh, mate,
yeah,
I thought, just sorry to give it a little plug, because it's one of our Patreon shows, isn't it? The Mailbag book. Yeah. I thought you and Pete and Les and Dan were hilarious on it last week.
Oh,
so
mate.
yeah, if you haven't got it, get listening to it. Brilliant show to start the weekend off.
Mate, yeah, I forgot to remember that. I couldn't stop crying after listening to Dan. Just some of the stuff he was coming out, mate. Absolutely brilliant. So if you haven't subscribed, do so anyway. Go back and listen to that, because it'll probably get you in the mood for another one. That's all it for post-match. Up the Toffees.